Digital Foundry is proudly sponsored by the Logitech G935 headset.
The recent news was huge, surprising, unprecedented, astonishing even. A memorandum of understanding between Microsoft and Sony sees the Xbox company's Azure cloud platform in the frame for next-generation PlayStation game streaming. The possibilities and indeed the challenges here are vast, and taken to its logical conclusion years beyond this generation, gaming landscape could be changed forever, and perhaps not in a way that's going to please console purists. First up though, in an investor conference earlier in the week, there was some interesting information provided about Sony's future plans. We got a taste of the SSD-powered future from the next generation PlayStation with a video demonstrating Marvel's Spider-Man loading 10 times faster than it does on the current gen PlayStation 4 Pro. And then we saw jet fighter speed streaming through the city on the next gen platform compared to the stuttering performance on the PS4 attempting to run at the same speed. Now, I happen to know that this demo is actually rather old, but regardless, it's interesting stuff for sure. And this investor conference, it also allowed us to get a look at Sony's cloud strategy as well. So PlayStation Now, the current 720p streaming solution, currently has, and I've got to admit I'm surprised by this, 700,000 subscribers. And Sony talks about an annual compounded growth rate of 40%. Current system capacity can apparently support up to 5 million subscribers, and the firm is also planning a series of enhancements to the service. So yes, the long overdue 1080p video streaming is finally coming along. And there's going to be what Sony describes as content quality improvements, whatever they may be. But it seems to be the case that we won't see PS5 games on PlayStation Now. The current system has limits, and Sony needs a technology partner to achieve mass scalability. Now, what I find interesting here is that Sony actually had three choices: Google, Amazon and Microsoft. And it was actually the Xbox firm that they chose. So here's the thing, competition is hotting up in the streaming sector. We know all about Google Stadia and how it intends to disrupt gaming as we know it using cutting-edge networking technology. Microsoft itself has xCloud in the making, based on Xbox One S hardware but with next-gen designs in the offing. Amazon, well, don't be surprised if its own cloud system comes online at some point in the future. What these firms have that Sony doesn't is two things: scalability and infrastructure. Facilities that dwarf PlayStation Now's 15 data centers, along with flourishing cloud businesses that aren't reliant just on gamers accessing game-centric hardware, but on a multitude of different use case scenarios. So yeah, take Stadia for example from Google. Yes, it uses custom AMD GPUs designed for gaming, but the Intel CPU there is server class, similar to other systems in the Google Cloud, meaning that dormant hardware can be retasked to do other things when the demand for gaming isn't there. It seems that the GPU is essentially an enhanced Vega 56, so again, no problem in repurposing that technology for non-gaming tasks for a ready-made user base. This kind of flexibility is just a step too far for Sony, who don't have that customer base and who don't really have that much experience in building server hardware. In actual fact, the original PS3 servers for PlayStation Now were the result of a product collaboration with Nvidia. A partnership was inevitable then, but Microsoft? Why team up with a rival console producer? Well, we can assume that Sony would have evaluated its competitors and found Microsoft's offering to be the best of the bunch for its various services. And to be fair, Azure technology like GameStack offers off-the-shelf solutions to a bunch of gaming problems and full integration with a wide range of middleware and games engines. We could also assume that Sony would have done its due diligence on things like streaming performance, quality and scalability. PlayStation Now's capacity for 5 million subscribers sounds impressive, but the litmus test is a scenario along these lines. Now let's say that a game as eagerly anticipated as Red Dead Redemption 2 launches in a world where cloud streaming is firmly established. Potentially we're looking at hundreds of thousands, possibly even more users looking to play that game all at the same time. And if a player is locked out of a game that they've bought at a crucial time, the launch period, the service basically isn't fit for the task. Being able to accommodate 5 million subscribers is very different to being able to simultaneously stream to 5 million users. Put it this way, would you still subscribe to Netflix if you couldn't watch what you wanted when you wanted? That's the kind of scalability that Sony needs here, and in turn, this presents a number of challenges and potentially a huge problem. So let me explain. Here's Forza Horizon 4. It's a brilliant Xbox exclusive game, no doubt about it, except, well, it's not actually an Xbox exclusive game. You could also play it on PC. It's still plugged into the same multiplayer infrastructure. You can still play with Xbox users, get achievements and whatnot. But Playground Games didn't develop Forza Horizon 4 exclusively for the Xbox hardware. The developers went into this one knowing they had to deliver this title on a range of different kit. And this is The Last of Us 2 from Sony, of course. By contrast, the developer there, Naughty Dog, has built this game with only PS4 and PS4 Pro in mind as target platforms. Now, typically, Sony first-party developers build games to the hardware. It's a profound difference compared to Microsoft, and this could result in a significant challenge for Sony's streaming plans. Now, we are moving into theory crafting territory here, but it's also a case of looking at the basic logistics and applying Occam's razor. Now, to begin with, Microsoft is rolling out Xbox One S hardware for its initial cloud onslaught. So yeah, all of that kit will be integrated into the data centers, and this is likely because they'll get instant compatibility with 3 generations of Xbox games. They'll all become instantly cloud capable, but for the future, it has flexibility. Basically every Xbox game, be it first or third party, will have a PC version, so Azure can either host dedicated hardware or run titles on PC-based servers instead. One way or another, it's a huge investment paid off by the fact that the servers can be used in many different ways. But what I find hard to believe is that those data centers will double up by also integrating PlayStation server hardware that is, at the nuts and bolts level, basically very similar. It's far more likely that PlayStation software will have to run on the hardware at hand, which is spooled up as required. And this is no problem at all for third parties. PlayStation games are, to all intents and purposes, the same as Xbox games at the core. So even if, say, Battlefield 5 is running on Xbox or PC hardware, it could still have PlayStation button prompts and be integrated into PSN. And, chances are you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But the Sony first parties may need to adjust their software and effectively deliver games that will not just run on PlayStation 5, but also on Microsoft's cloud servers. And although we may be straying too much into fantasyland speculation here, there's perhaps another reason why partnering with Microsoft has distinct advantages for Sony. So here's Crysis 3, one of my favourite games running on Xbox One. Kind of. Well, you see, it's actually native Xbox 360 code designed for a PowerPC processor, running via an advanced emulation layer that allows it to operate on the x86 powered Xbox One. When this kind of technological achievement is possible, how difficult would running PS4 or indeed potentially PS5 games on a Microsoft cloud system actually be? I mean, to achieve this, we would require an unprecedented level of cooperation between Sony and Microsoft. And I guess the question is this: why would arch rivals cooperate to anything like that extent? Why would they even sign a deal in the first place? Well, perhaps Sony is just going to lease Microsoft cloud facilities, but again, could have done this with both Google or Amazon if it wanted to. I just feel that potentially Microsoft is offering something extra. And as for one rival would help another, we have to consider the business case for Microsoft and Sony as corporate entities over and above a PlayStation Xbox rivalry. If this deal really is a super close collaboration, guess what? The reason it's been agreed is because it's great for both parties. Sony has the technology and scalability to provide a state-of-the-art cloud streaming service it would otherwise not be able to deliver, safe in the knowledge that some of the best minds in the business have been working on the streaming side of the technology. As for Microsoft, whether the game experience is branded Xbox or PlayStation, it's Microsoft that's going to be hosting the vast majority of PC and console games on its cloud systems. Good for the platform holders then, but potentially good for users too. So let's think about this. Xbox Live working across all systems, cross-play enabled for every multiplayer game regardless of platform. It's a fascinating prospect and potentially the end of the whole console war thing, and as intriguing as that sounds, some may be quite horrified at the implications. All I will say about this is that across the console generations, we've seen gradual convergence in the core hardware. It's not the PlayStation 4 or the PS4 Pro that defines PS4 gaming as such, but rather the games and the experiences that run on it. Fundamentally, Xbox and PlayStation hardware is very, very similar to the point where both are essentially subsets of PC technology, both designed by AMD, of course. And Sony itself was quick to confirm that none of its streaming plans will change anything in relation to the design of the next generation PlayStation. So if there is going to be a fundamental change, we're not going to be seeing it for many years. Beyond that though, and through to the next console generation after that, well, that's where things get interesting. And I guess it all comes down to how good the streaming experience is and how much traction it gains. There is a danger that the home console as we know it could be replaced by streaming. I mean, the mass market has moved away from movie DVDs and even Blu-rays in favor of streaming. Netflix started out from nothing and is now one of the biggest broadcasters in the world. I personally think there's room for all manner of delivery mechanisms, and certainly in the here and now, Sony and Microsoft agree. But the bottom line is that consoles will only be made if there are the users to buy them. Within the life cycle of the next-gen consoles, everything could change. I mean, why do you think this deal happened in the first place? I personally have some degree of skepticism surrounding streaming and the level of fidelity it's going to deliver. And personally, I don't think I'd ever want to play anything other than a local experience for my precious gaming hours. But then again, I couldn't have foreseen Netflix being what it is now when movie streaming technology started to emerge. But these days, the content is there, the quality is there, and I'm a reasonably happy subscriber. Change may well be coming then, and while this declaration of partnership between Sony and Microsoft is at an embryonic stage and it's not legally binding or anything, there's no doubt that it's a huge statement, a massive surprise, surprising even for many within both companies. And yes, maybe it won't be the last big shock of this upcoming generation. It's early days right now, but you can rest assured that we'll be following this story with much interest. Okay, so that's all from me for now. As usual, please like and subscribe to support our work. Ring the bell for instant notifications, and if you like Digital Foundry and what we do, please consider the DF Patreon. Makes a big difference in bringing you the content we produce at the quality levels we want to deliver it. But that's all from me for now. Thanks for watching.
Featuring 2.4 GHz wireless, 50mm Pro G audio drivers, and DTS Headphone X 2.0 surround sound technology under the hood, the G935 headset delivers the ultimate wireless audio solution for gamers, whether you're playing on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, or mobile. Order yours today from Logitech G.